terrifying part is that you won't even realize you're falling until it's too late. One moment, you're strong, composed, a man on a mission. The next, you're chasing shadows, bending yourself into someone unrecognizable, all because her attention started to slip. You didn't lose her in one moment. You lost yourself in 100 small ones. Every unanswered text that made you anxious, every silent night that made you question your worth, every time you put her above your own path, they chipped away at something vital. You thought being open meant being honest. You thought proving your care meant loyalty. But what you were really doing was begging. And no one respects a beggar. Not in love, not in life. Because desperation smells like fear. And fear has no place where attraction lives. The moment you need someone to feel whole is the moment they stop seeing you as someone they admire and start seeing you as someone they can control, or worse, ignore. She didn't pull away because she stopped caring. She pulled away because something in her instincts told her you were no longer the man who didn't need her. And when she felt that shift, when she sensed you had placed her above your own identity, the foundation cracked. Not because she wanted it to, not because she's cruel, but because deep down, a woman can't follow a man who's lost himself. It's not about playing games. It's not about pretending not to care. It's about anchoring yourself so deeply in your purpose, in your standards, that no storm, no silence, no shift in her behavior can pull you off course. That kind of strength is rare, and it's magnetic. Because when a man carries himself with quiet certainty, when his actions aren't dictated by fear of loss, but by clarity of self, people notice. She notices. But you can't fake it. You can't pretend to be that man while crumbling inside. You become that man through discipline, through setbacks, through the gut-wrenching moments when you want to reach out, to explain, to fix, and you don't. You sit with the discomfort. You face the silence. You remember who you were before you made her the sun in your sky. And maybe that means walking away. Maybe that means rebuilding from ground zero. But in doing so, you reclaim the one thing you should never have given up, your self-respect. That's what makes you powerful. Not being needed, not being wanted, but being complete, with or without her. Because the moment you stop chasing, the world shifts. The silence becomes your ally. The distance becomes space for growth. And in that stillness, something unshakable forms. A man who is no longer waiting to be chosen. A man who has already chosen himself. They won't say it out loud. They might not even realize they're doing it. But people test you. In every space of your life, your job, your home, your friendships, they test what you're made of. Not with malice, not always with intention, but with instinct. They push, they pull, they see where your boundaries are. And the moment they find out you don't have any, that's when everything changes. That's when the respect disappears. It happens quietly at first. A joke that goes too far. A decision made without your input. A disregard for your feelings, masked as a misunderstanding. And if you stay silent, if you let it slide just to avoid the discomfort, you're not keeping the peace. You're declaring that your voice doesn't matter, that your standards are negotiable, that your self-respect is for sale at the price of someone else's comfort. And people remember that. What's worse is that this doesn't just affect one relationship. It ripples. The moment you start seeking validation from others, the moment you look to someone else to confirm your worth, you hand them a kind of power no one should ever hold over you. Because they'll sense it. They'll sense that your confidence is borrowed, that your strength is fragile, and eventually they'll treat you accordingly. This isn't about being cold. It's not about pretending you don't care. That's just another mask worn by someone still desperate for approval. Real strength, true strength, is silent. It's the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't flinch, and doesn't need to prove itself. It's knowing who you are so deeply that nothing and no one can shake it. But most people never get there. Most people are terrified of being alone with themselves. They drown in noise, chase compliments like oxygen, and collapse the moment it's taken away. So when the people around them begin to test their limits, as people inevitably do, they fold, they compromise, they tolerate, they betray their own values just to keep someone close. And then they wonder why that person stopped respecting them. It's because respect doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in clarity, in knowing your line and not moving it for anyone. It grows when you choose discomfort over self-betrayal. When you say without rage, without drama, this is who I am, and this is what I won't tolerate. Because once someone sees you abandon yourself just to hold on to them, they'll never see you the same way again. You can try to rebuild it. You can apologize, promise to change, but something unspoken has already broken. And that spark, the one that made them admire you, it doesn't come back. So you stop breaking. You stop folding. You stop giving away your worth like it's negotiable. You move with quiet resolve, with unwavering integrity. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to fight. You just need to be immovable when it comes to who you are. And when people feel that, when they see that you cannot be manipulated, that your kindness is not weakness, and your empathy is not an invitation to walk all over you, they behave differently. They step with more care. They speak with more respect. Because you've taught them that the cost of staying in your life is treating you with dignity. This is about more than love, more than friendships, more than work. This is about the foundation of everything, your relationship with yourself, the strength to hold the line, the courage to risk losing others rather than losing yourself. Because in the end, if you don't choose that strength, if you let fear make your choices, then bit by bit, you disappear. And one day, you wake up a stranger to yourself, wondering how it all slipped away. So you choose strength. Every day, every moment, not to dominate, not to win, but to stand, firm whole, unshaken. What you stand for, what you truly believe in, is the foundation of who you are. And the moment you compromise that, not for growth, not for understanding, but just to avoid tension, you're no longer standing beside someone as an equal. You've stepped behind them, and whether they show it or not, respect begins to fade. In life, in love, people don't admire someone who folds. They may say they want kindness, support, and patience, and they probably do, but only when it comes with a backbone. Because kindness without strength feels like submission. Understanding without self-respect feels like weakness. And love, real love, can't breathe in the presence of weakness disguised as devotion. You've seen relationships that began with fireworks. That initial spark, the admiration, the sense that two people had truly found something rare. And then slowly, almost quietly, it unraveled. Not because of some explosive betrayal, not because of infidelity or lies, but because one person started giving pieces of themselves away. One quiet concession here, one unspoken truth there. They swallowed their discomfort, bit back their opinions, and in doing so, started to disappear. At first, it might have seemed like love, like sacrifice. But over time, their partners saw it for what it really was, fear masquerading as love. And nothing crushes connection more than watching someone lose themselves in order to keep someone else close. You've been told that love is about compromise, about putting the other person first. And sure, there's beauty in give and take. But when it becomes one-sided, when compromise becomes self-erasure, you're not being loyal, you're abandoning yourself. If someone tests your boundaries again and again, if they see how far they can push before you finally say, enough, and you let them, you've taught them that your line can always be moved, that your limits are negotiable. But when you draw that line, when you make it clear, not as a threat, not as a game, but with quiet certainty, that you will walk away before you let your soul be stepped on, everything changes. Because real respect comes from knowing you have the strength to be alone. That your love is not a result of dependency, but a decision made freely from a place of inner strength. And ironically, that's when people value you most. When they see you cannot be manipulated, that you're not clinging out of fear, but staying because you choose to. That's where admiration grows. That's where true connection lives. Not in domination or fear or trying to hold each other hostage with guilt, but in the freedom to be whole, even within a bond. If someone is testing you, let them. Let them find out just how far you're willing to go, but also let them know without a single doubt that you will never go past your own dignity. Because if you bend now, if you break just once, you set the stage for a lifetime of breaking. How much of yourself will you trade just to be accepted? How many truths will you bury? How many gut feelings will you ignore just to avoid the discomfort of standing up? People lie to themselves. They say they're just avoiding drama, trying to keep the peace. But often, that's just fear talking. Fear of being abandoned, of being disliked, of losing someone they've built a future around. And fear doesn't build anything strong. When you start living from fear, fear of rejection, fear of loneliness, fear of conflict, you stop being real. You start performing, smiling when you're hurt, nodding when you disagree, pretending to be fine when everything inside you is screaming. And the longer that performance goes on, the more distant you feel from your own identity. One day, you look in the mirror and you don't even recognize the reflection. Worse still, the person you were so afraid of losing, they see it. Maybe not right away, maybe not with words, but on some level they know. And slowly their respect for you crumbles. Because people don't respect those who constantly fold. They don't admire what's always agreeable. They may enjoy the control, but they don't admire, and without admiration, attraction fades. And once that's gone, love doesn't last much longer. The truth? If you're too afraid to stand up for yourself, if you're too afraid to risk discomfort, you're not in love. You're in emotional captivity. And the only way out is courage. The courage to have the uncomfortable conversation, the courage to be disliked, the courage to say, this matters to me, even if it upsets them. That's not aggression. That's integrity. You don't need to be cruel, just honest. Because honesty is uncomfortable, yes. But dishonesty will leave you with regret that lingers for years. Real relationships are not soft places where no one is ever challenged. They're forged in honesty, in two people who are strong enough to be truthful with each other, who don't fear discomfort because they know what's at stake if they stay silent. Suppression might look like peace, but it's a time bomb. Every unspoken thought, every swallowed feeling adds weight. And eventually the pressure builds to the point where it all explodes. And when it does, it's not just the relationship that breaks, it's you. So if something feels wrong, say it. If your boundaries are crossed, show it. If you disagree, speak it. Because love without honesty is just a quiet lie. And the beautiful irony is, the right person, the one who sees you, really sees you, won't run when you speak your truth. They'll lean in. They'll respect you more. Because deep down, everyone wants a partner who stands tall, not someone who tiptoes around to avoid making waves. The cost of honesty is temporary discomfort. The cost of dishonesty is permanent regret. Choose carefully.